de um descolamento das universidades com os problemas do mundo. Da pouca interação e, às vezes, da pouca ciência, do pouco exercício da ciência feita na produção de conhecimento. A gente ensina pouco que é fazer ciência, a gente usa pouco que é fazer ciência, e, de novo, com algumas exceções espetaculares que o Brasil tem. Acho que a medicina da USP é um caso que eu sempre cito como um grande exemplo de sucesso. Né? Na medicina da USP, você não tem a teoria e depois a prática. É divertido que eu falo isso. Não tem a teoria e tem a prática. Como assim tem a teoria e tem a prática? A teoria é para falar sobre a prática, não tem esse descolamento. A gente não percebe mais os vícios de argumentos que permeiam o senso comum no Brasil. Não tem teoria e prática. Você está ensinando é a prática. E a prática requer um conhecimento mais ou menos abstrato. Imagina, na UFRJ, eu sei fazer uma cirurgia de rim. Na teoria, eu sei tudo. Mas na prática, eu não sei. Como assim? Ou você sabe operar um rim ou não sabe operar um rim. Isso deveria valer para várias das atividades que a gente faz. Você sabe construir a ponte ou não sabe construir a ponte? Não tem a teoria. Não, tinha várias aulas do quadro negro sobre fazer uma cirurgia de coração. Mas ia abrir o paciente? Não, nunca isso não. Aí eu vou para o estágio. É assim. E a gente não estranha que o Brasil é um dos poucos países do mundo que tem estágio. Eu não conheço nenhum outro país do mundo que tem estágio durante a faculdade. A não ser estágio de verão. Não conheço nenhum país do mundo. Nenhum. Vamos combinar se tem alguma coisa que o Brasil faz, que nenhum lugar do mundo faz, no ensino universitário, algo deve estar de errado. Aí, uma escola, uma universidade, é para ensinar a gente a trabalhar com os problemas do mundo. É ensinar você a ser um advogado. Você não tem que ir para o escritório aprender a ser um advogado. Você continua o processo de formação no escritório. Mas você aprende a ser um advogado na escola. Você aprende a ser um médico na escola. Na escola, na residência. Ou um engenheiro. Mas, de novo, são ensinos sobre teses descoladas da ciência, que permeiam boa parte do universo brasileiro, inclusive na universidade, e uma universidade descolada do mundo, descolada dos problemas, que nem sempre é sem razão. Ciência básica, às vezes, você quer fazer. Mas ciência básica é estudar mecânica quântica. Porque mecânica quântica está começando a afetar o mundo. Né? Mas ciência básica, tradição, você faz uma pesquisa mais solta, mais abstrata, nem abstrata, né? Ela é empírica também, com frequência. Mas ela é mais distante de problemas concretos. E, eventualmente, alguma dessas pesquisas tem um impacto surpreendente sobre o mundo. Mecânica quântica é uma delas, né? Quem diria aquele artigo, acho que 36 ou 37 do Einstein, criticando a mecânica quântica, que ele fala, se a mecânica quântica for verdadeira, tal fenômeno ocorre. E esse fenômeno é um absurdo. Ele estava certo, o fenômeno ocorre. A gente descobriu, e 80 anos depois, do Prêmio Nobel de Física. E está na base do que é a computação quântica, que é esse estranho entrelaçamento das partículas. Né? As partículas saem e elas têm alguma relação entre elas, que a gente não sabe muito bem como, uma distância gigantesca. Você vê o movimento de uma delas, você acerta probabilisticamente o movimento da outra. Uma coisa meio... Mas, enfim, não vamos me perder aqui. Essa é a melhor introdução que eu acho que podia pensar para a ideia do Hub. O Hub é para fazer tudo diferente do que a gente vê por aí. O Hub é para aproximar a universidade do mundo, o mundo da universidade, trazer ciência, as boas práticas e as boas regras da ciência para ajudar a tomar decisão. A ciência não toma decisão para a gente. Não tem uma resposta cientificamente certa. A ciência é um conjunto de protocolos que nos ajuda a entender possíveis, prováveis, efeitos e consequências das diversas opções. Como lidar com as opções é uma decisão das escolhas, dos valores, das preferências, da política. Você desenha um programa social dessa maneira, você tem esse tipo de impacto na vida das pessoas, no mercado de trabalho, aqui. Alguns impactos você pode achar que são bons, outros nem tanto. Se eu mudo o desenho do plano urbanístico de São Paulo, do plano diretor de São Paulo, então vai ter essas consequências aqui, vai ter aquelas consequências. Como é que você avalia o resultado? Aí é para suas preferências. A ciência não diz isso. Mas ela diz, ela procura verificar possíveis, prováveis efeitos e consequências das diversas decisões e fazer diagnósticos mais profundos para auxiliar no processo decisório. Ela é um instrumento que pode ser incrivelmente útil para o processo decisório. O que eu vou tomar frente à ocorrência da Covid? Superar esses problemas é a ideia desse hub. Aproximar a universidade dos problemas do mundo, colaborar com a ciência, e a universidade também entender os problemas que existem. A filosofia no Insper é que tudo que a gente faz começa com pessoas e termina com pessoas. A nossa engenharia começa com pessoas e termina com pessoas. Primeiro você entende o problema do outro. Qual é o problema que a sua empresa está enfrentando? E você conhece o seu problema melhor do que a gente. Quais são os desafios? Uma vez entendido, voltar para trás para interligar diversas áreas do conhecimento, montando times multifacetados, que em conjunto traga uma solução que tem que ser avaliada pelo cliente. É engraçado falar isso, tempo esgotado, estou indo aqui. É engraçado falar isso, porque no Brasil a política pública tem uma opção completamente contrária. Eu sei o que é melhor para as pessoas. Eu desenho cidades com base na minha concepção, não. Você tem que desenhar cidades com base no que as pessoas precisam. Você tem que construir soluções com base no que as empresas precisam. É esse o caminho que a gente está propondo. E a gente está aqui para trabalhar para vocês. Para os problemas das empresas, para os problemas da política pública. Trazendo o que a gente puder de conhecimento integrado nesse auxílio. Essa casa de vocês, sejam bem-vindos. Desculpe, passei do meu tempo. Então, acho que seja uma ótima oportunidade. Infelizmente, vou correr daqui para outra reunião, senão eu vou... Aliás, já vai começar em 1 minuto a outra reunião. Peço desculpas pelo tempo. Obrigado. Privilégio ter vocês aqui. Valeu.
So now let's switch to English because we are already online and I think Shlomo is already connected as well. So just connecting to what Marcos just said, for us it's important to have the school connected to the whole ecosystem. So what we were planning to do when we created the seminar was connect with many of our partners that are at other schools all over the world. And we did this through our faculty, a few of the faculty you're gonna meet during these 3 days of the seminar, and through our partner companies already. So the Paulo Cunha Innovation Hub is now completing 3 years old. And we started creating good relationship with some important companies, a few important companies. One of them is Tata Consulting Services that is here today, and also Ambev that will be here tomorrow with us, Klabin, the Hospital das Clínicas, and Plug and Play that's also participating with us in the seminar, and
Época Negócios.
oh yes, and our partner for the media part is Época Negócios that is covering the seminar, also producing some content that will be delivered during and after the seminar. So to this table, I'm inviting here Professor Andrea Minardi and Professor Charles Kishbon. And I think we already have Professor Shlomo Maital connected online, right? So Andrea, And Charles, if you want to come to the front, we'll be sitting here. And so the people that are watching us online can see us. And I think that now you're going to connect Shlomo, right?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, my friends, Brazilians. Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So, good afternoon. Welcome to this 3-day seminar or workshop. I wish you a fruitful 3 days. I'm very honored to be speaking to you, and I thank you for joining the webcast or coming to listen to my talk. I like the name of Insper, the university. I've recently written a book about Technion innovation, and the title includes the words inspiration, which in Portuguese I understand is inspiração. So you have a very good name for an institution. I gather that you have visited Israel from the Innovation Hub, and we'll be happy to host any of you who want to come back after the difficult almost 3 years of limited travel because of the pandemic. I looked up Insper and I read your mission statement, and the mission statement calls for promoting the transformation of Brazil through educating innovative leaders and applied research. And that's ambitious, as all mission statements should be. So I salute you and congratulate you, and I will try to speak to how to transform Brazil and share some of the lessons and the mistakes that we've made in Israel, but some of the good things we've done as well. A special thanks to Ana Paula and to Thais for inviting me and for organizing this. And let me get to the main point. Israel began its life in 1948 on May the 14th. We're a very young country. We began as a very poor country without natural resources in a very bad neighborhood. And Israel has now become a wealthy country with GDP per capita of $50,000. We did this through the brains and energy and dynamism, creativity of our young people. Recently, we found natural gas, but well before that, we had become wealthy through high tech. Brazil's GDP per capita is about $17,000 based on correct exchange rates. Brazil too has brilliant, creative, dynamic, energetic young people. I've met them, I've been to Brazil. But that alone is not enough. What we've learned in Israel is you need an ecosystem. You need a whole system. And so I'm going to talk to you about the ecosystem of innovation and what we've learned in Israel, and some of the practical things that you can do in Sao Paulo and in Brazil in order to build a powerful, innovative ecosystem. Here are the main points that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to speak for 30 minutes and conclude while watching the time very carefully. It takes a village for innovative startups to thrive. Entrepreneurial energy isn't enough. Why is that? What is an innovation ecosystem, and how can you measure them? And why do we need to measure the ecosystem? We need to do that because we need public policy to build the system. And in order to generate public policy, we need to have consensus. We need to understand what the problem is. And unless we can put up on the screen or on the blackboard, on the whiteboard, what the innovation system looks like and where are the problems, where the puzzle doesn't fit, it's very hard to generate good policy. So I wrote a whole book, and I'll mention this later, about how to visualize the Brazilian ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem, so we can make the needed improvements and strengthen it and provide the infrastructure that our brilliant young entrepreneurs can use. I'll show you some examples of Israel's innovation ecosystem. We also did a study of Sao Paulo's innovation ecosystem. We'll show that to you and share some insights. And the book that we published, and I'm happy to share that with you, the price of the book is outrageous. So if you wish, I can share some of the chapters. We've studied ecosystems of Toronto, Canada, Shanghai, Poland, Germany, Spain, France, Singapore, and of course, Israel. And each ecosystem, each innovation ecosystem is unique, and each is different, and each is built on the culture of the local country. Innovation is driven by culture. And we'll discuss that a little later. This is the book that we've written with my colleague Amnon Frankel, professor of urban planning, mapping national innovation ecosystems. I think it's a little hard to acquire the book. As I said, I'm happy to share digitally at least the main chapters and the methodology. So it takes a village, a book made popular by Hillary Clinton. It takes a village to raise a child, as they say. It takes a country to create a dynamic innovation ecosystem. And you need all the pieces. If you're missing a piece, it's like doing a big puzzle. When you put the pieces together and there's a piece missing, it's fallen on the floor, it can be very unhappy. And you need that piece, and you need all the pieces. And the missing piece will make the innovation system work far, far less well. Like a car without a part that's missing, without a carburetor, it just won't run well. So let me briefly mention how we picture an innovation ecosystem like that of Sao Paulo. And this is an exercise worth doing even apart from the ultimate product. And I urge you to think about doing this, but in a simpler manner. So assemble a team of people who really understand Brazilian innovation. Entrepreneurs, innovators, venture capitalists, bankers, public policy, about a dozen, and put them in a room and ask them for half a day. And then begin by making two lists. There are two pieces to the innovation ecosystem. The first is what we call anchors. These are the infrastructure of innovation. These are the fixed points of innovation. And one of the main anchors is, of course, the culture of the country. I know that Brazil has a dynamic culture, a culture of energy. Brazil and Israel, we have many similarities. You're a huge country and we're a tiny one. But life is not easy in Israel, as you know, and it's not so easy in Brazil either. And so our people have been accustomed to becoming very resilient and persistent problem solvers, dealing with the daily challenges. This is an anchor of innovation and something that can be exploited, and we've used it to create wealth. The second part of the innovation ecosystem is processes. In economic language, flows of money, flows of idea, flows of public support, flows of cooperation, strategic partnerships. And so we ask our experts to list the main innovation processes, and then we combine some and try to simplify. We use the Einstein principle, simplify as much as possible, but not more so. Don't leave important things out. Now, we've gone on to quantify this. We built a matrix, and we scored the interactions between anchor and process, the arrows, and we've scored them on a score of 1 to 5 between not so important and super important, which is 5. And then using this matrix, we did something called exploratory factor analysis. And we organized factors and clusters, and then generated a diagram. You can skip the last part. You can skip 5 and 6. Put the people in the room, list the anchors, list the processes, put them up on a whiteboard, move the squares around, and build a visual depiction of the ecosystem, and then think about what's missing, what needs to be strengthened, what can we improve, what can we change. And even if it's not perfect, it's a useful exercise to visualize and understand, how does innovation really work in Brazil? And what are the key parts, and are we missing anything? And how can we strengthen it? And that's the theme of my talk. And I'm going to make some practical suggestions, and I hope I don't insult or wound or injure anybody. But we have problems in Israel, you do too in Brazil. And my job as a professor is to tell the truth. So let me move on and show you the Israeli innovation ecosystem. In the square boxes, the rectangles, we have the anchors, the fixed pieces, the things that don't change. And in the circles, we have the flows, research funds, government investment, demand, public-private cooperation. But the key part of our innovation ecosystem is the rectangles. And I think you'll notice that a very large number of our anchors are rooted in the culture of the country. The culture of the country is the values, the personality of the country, out of the box thinking, a culture of empowerment, cultural diversity. And along with that, our infrastructure, our universities, scientific and educational, and the drive of our young people to do startups, entrepreneurship, and the competitiveness of the startup scene. As I said, Israel began its life as a young embattled country under attack, and we had very little weapons and were given very little chance to survive. And we've developed a culture of survival, persistence, and resilience. And this culture leads our young people to do startups. I've been teaching at the Technion for 43 years. 1 in 4 of our graduates does a startup, including some of our women, 1 in 7 of our female graduates. When they graduate, they're offered very high pay in the high-tech sector. And many of them choose instead to do a startup. Why? Culture. They don't like people telling them what to do. They want to do something on their own. And they go off and do a startup, and many fail, as you'll see in a moment. But it doesn't deter them, and they persist. So what is Israel's secret sauce for startup entrepreneurship? What are the key insights that we've learned at Technion over the years, over the last 30 years, in which our high-tech innovative sector has grown? It creates half of our exports, more than half of our economic growth. We've gone through the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and managed to keep a fairly strong economy, which is better than many others. Why? And what are the elements of our system that were important? Capital. We began starting businesses, doing startups, but we had no venture capital. And you can't have startups without risk money. So we did something innovative on the part of the government. Believe it or not, the government did something brilliant and innovative. In 1993, our government created a government venture capital fund. And they told foreign VCs, you come here and invest, and every dollar you invest in Israel, I know it's a crazy idea putting money in the Middle East, but we have smart young people. Come to Israel, invest $1, and we'll match it. And guess what? if you make money with your investment, you keep it. So we're doubling your potential rate of return. And that was a government venture capital company called Yosema. And it worked. We got some early venture capital from the US. And eventually Yosema was privatized. It was sold because we didn't need it anymore. Venture capital found that they could make a lot of money from Israeli startups. And that was a crucial part of our innovation ecosystem. We have young people with ideas. This is part of the culture of the country. It comes from having to solve problems quickly and improvise when you don't have all the money or resources that you need. In our War of Independence, we made weapons, mortars out of water pipes, and that improvisation remains. And I think it exists in Brazil as well. And in that sense, you are similar to us. Take courage. We need young people who are not afraid to take risk. For many years, I taught MBA classes in France, and the French have the world's greatest engineers, but they really are not an innovative country. And the reason is that the young people seem to want to have a secure paycheck with a 6-week vacation and to go home at 5 o'clock in the evening from their job to their family. And they have no appetite for the risk involved in startups. And that's a shame. The country must understand that high-tech entrepreneurship and innovation is risky, and many attempts will fail. So you have to applaud failure, approve it, and enable those who fail to have a second chance. Without naming the country, there is a major country with wonderful engineers where failure is a loss of face to your family. And that country has no entrepreneurship, and never will, because if you can't fail, you can't try anything, can't take risks. Israel had luck. We had great luck, the best luck you can imagine. In 1990, Russia opened its gates, and Russian Jews, well-educated doctors, nurses, scientists, engineers, 1 million of them in 10 years, 1 million, 20-30% of the population migrated to Israel. And they were the rocket fuel for our high-tech boom, because we needed, of course, skilled labor. You need people to do things, not just startup entrepreneurs who start things. We have great universities. We have Technion. You have the University of Sao Paulo and Insper. You do as in Brazil as well. And always the culture of wanting to innovate, wanting to do something to change the world, to create value for people. And I believe you have lots of those as well. There's a dark side. The dark side is that we have an exceptionally high failure rate for our startups. And this is a study done of 10,000 startups from 1997 to 2000, and growing successful startup that's managed um, 450 or so. Or the red or the orange, which are deeply trapped. It can be red. I want to talk about part of the entrepreneurship. The are not going to work. we're a bit low on time, and I want to make this important point before going on to talk about Brazil. This is a diagram I saw in visiting a startup, one of the 450 that really succeeded and became a global market leader. And I asked the founder, Yuda Ziesapel, what are the triangles and the circles on this diagram? And he explained to me the following. And I'm talking now about how to make startup entrepreneurship and innovation viral, and a good virus, not the kind that we've been through for 3 years. And the answer is, when somebody came into his office with an idea, and it wasn't in the core business of the company, he had to explain to him that we can't do that. We have to keep focus for our company, RAD. But I have an office next door and it's empty. Why don't you go next door and do a startup, and I'll give you some money. And in fact, I'll give you advice and mentoring and a bit management help, which you really need. Give it a shot. And the success rate is over 70% for these 128 companies that spun off from RAD. So it's very important, when you do succeed, you can replicate the DNA of your innovative success by spinning off startups and giving them mentoring and help, and you can lower that failure rate a lot. And I think this is a great model for Brazil that you can follow if you get your major companies to actually foster innovation startups by spinning them off and encouraging creative young people, because they have an idea. And if you tell them to shut up, it's not in our core business, they'll be very unhappy and maybe leave. Let them do a startup, send them off to do a startup. So it's 4:45, and I think I'll take another 5 minutes. So I want to talk about Brazil, and perhaps somewhat arrogantly share some ideas and some suggestions. We did a basic model of innovation and entrepreneurship for University of Sao Paulo and the Sao Paulo city. You have financial capital, you have human capital and talent, which flows into this startup scene, a very strong university. You have values and attitudes, desire of young people to do startups. You have a drive to do quality research, which can generate innovations. These are the basic building blocks that you have to create the same wealth machine that Israel generated to reach $50,000 per capita GDP. But let me make some suggestions. First of all, it's hard to do business in Brazil because of some bureaucracy. We have that in Israel too. Brazil is 124th in the world. This needs to be gotten rid of, and it's not hard to do, and you can do it. You just have to be aware and create some pressure. There's no reason for it. It doesn't do any good. It does a lot of harm. The tax system also, I gather, is quite complicated. I urge you to do some global benchmarking. So I'm showing you now a report that comes from the French Business School, IMD, Swiss Business School, IMD, in Lausanne. It's called the World
Professor, I apologize for all this inconvenience. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
It
Not a
it
problem.
doesn't usually. For our audience on YouTube, just a quick message. We're encountering a few technical problems. We'll get back as soon as we can fix all that. So you can just bear with us. I apologize for the delay and the inconvenience, okay? Professor, we're live again, so you can begin. I'm sorry for that.
Okay. So, my friends, life has just taught us a small lesson, which is related to my talk tonight. We Israelis and you Brazilians, we're used to having interrupted service. We're used to having problems, and we don't. It doesn't phase us, and we don't yell and scream, and we simply get on with it. And that's a very important part of our culture and your culture, and it's a part of entrepreneurship and innovation as well, because that happens all the time. And when you innovate, you run into unexpected problems. I'm going to end with this comment. The IMD survey of Brazil's competitive position is based on a survey of experts in Brazil itself. So this is what the experts in Brazil have discovered about the country or believe about your country. You have strengths and you have some weaknesses. The strengths are four: dynamic economy with a lot of energy, and that's absolutely true. I know that from personal visits. Open and positive attitudes, and that's crucial for startup entrepreneurship. The idea that we can do anything, we can do this. As President Obama said, yes, we can. And we say that all the time here in Israel. We've sent satellites to land on the moon, and we've done amazing things. And you can too. Business-friendly environment. Brazil likes business. That's true. And you have very effective cost competitiveness. You have a country with fairly productive labor relative to the cost of the labor and capital as well. Those are four important strengths that you can leverage to build wealth through innovation in Brazil. But in your innovation ecosystem, there are some problems, and we've run into these as well. The infrastructure is not very reliable. Did we learn about that tonight, or what? Policy stability. No further words need to be said. Your tax regime is overly complex. It can easily be simplified. You need a strong legal environment. You need to educate people widely, not only in Sao Paulo, but in the peripheral region as well, because if your main innovation resource is brains, you need to educate all of those brains. And you need a competent government. You need competent people who are running the country. And all of those things are part of the innovation ecosystem. And in order to build a powerful wealth machine through your innovation, your innovative young people, all of these pieces need to be in place. And I feel this is so obvious, and you all know this, but it's a matter of getting it done. How do we do this? How do we build a strong infrastructure? And one thing you can do is simply global benchmarking. What did Singapore do to create an incredibly wealthy city? They did it through getting the mothers of Singapore to teach the kids that they had to study math in school so they could become engineers, so that Singapore could attract Intel and build semiconductor factories and so on. And it's pretty simple, but really hard to do. So I'm going to end there. My point is so obvious, it's almost embarrassing. You have high energy, creative Brazilian entrepreneurs. By the way, they're not all young. We have entrepreneurs. I have friends who are over 70 years old, and they're still doing startups. They need a smooth, powerful, integrated ecosystem so that you can fully utilize this huge potential of these creative young Brazilians, and to keep them, because today our young people leave if they don't have this. If they can't fulfill their creativity, they'll go somewhere else. So keep your young people at home, provide them with this system, ease of doing business, simple tax system, stable government policy, pro-business environment, recognition of failure, legal system that makes it possible to start again. And all of those things can generate a powerful wealth machine that we've created in Israel with some luck, and you can do as well. Obrigado. Thank you so much. Please make a note of my email, and I love to get email, and I answer quickly if you have questions, and perhaps we have very few minutes to take some questions now. If I can ask the moderator perhaps to take your questions, if you wish, in Portuguese, and then he can relay them. So thank you all for your attention, and time for a couple of questions.
Shlomo, thank you very much. For the interest of time, I will just share the floor with the audience. If any of you have a question to Professor Shlomo. We have a couple of questions here, but we want to guarantee that you guys are heard before we make our questions.
Giving priority to you if you have one. I would like to make one comment, why people are thinking if they have questions or not, but my comment is, I think there's another strong point in Brazil, in our ecosystem, that is the market size. So this is compared to Israel, Shlomo, I don't know if you agree with that, but you're a small country, you usually innovation in Israel is born thinking about being scaled abroad. But I think Brazil is a good destiny for Israeli innovation. So this is a good opportunity, in my opinion, to connect the two ecosystems. I don't know if Charles has any other question. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. So you have an advantage in Brazil. You have a big domestic market. In Israel, every startup from day one has to be global and think about selling abroad, which is more difficult. We have difficulty in Israel in scaling up, and often our startups are acquired when they're very young. I think there's much room for cooperation between Israel and Brazil, because Brazil can supply scaling up that we lack in Israel. And our main problem, our startups are acquired. We don't grow. We haven't grown an independent, global, innovative startup high-tech company for 25 years or more. And perhaps Brazil and Israel can cooperate in this to remedy that, to the benefit of Brazil as well. Yes, much room for cooperation.
This is Charles here. I want to make a quick question on the role of universities. And I'm asking you that because you are in Technion, which is a great place to start a startup, right? And you have done some studies here at an university across the river here in São Paulo. And we'd love to hear your impressions on what you learned from our university system as well.
So Technion is the home of Israeli startup innovation, because we really began it. We got it rolling. And what have we learned? I'll share some very short lessons with you. We give our students cutting edge, global, first-rate technology and science. That we do. And that's very important. We don't preach entrepreneurship. It's from inside the students themselves. We fail, and you can remedy this in Brazil, and it's important. Our students graduate without knowing anything about business. And when we go back and ask them, did you do a startup? Yes. Did you learn about business, profit and loss, marketing, HR at Technion? No, not at all. Why? Because there's no time. You have to study thermodynamics. There's no time for business. Teach your students basic tools. And I haven't succeeded in persuading Technion to do that. And they learn those tools, but they really learn them the hard way. Second lesson, we bring, and the students listen to the stories, and some of them think that maybe I can do this as well. But also, we do this experientially. What I mean by that is, don't give them theoretical courses like theoretical physics. Do hackathons, 3-day startups, 5-day startups, 1-day startups. Let students experience the idea of having an idea, forming a team, doing a prototype, writing a business plan under time pressure. And let them experience it and see if they like it. See if it's suited for them. It's like entrepreneurship is a suit of clothes. You got to try it on, or you won't know what it looks like on you. Try it on, try it. And some students will think, this is not for me. I want a 9-to-5 job. And some students will say, this is what I want to do with my life.
So, Professor, thank you for your very interesting talk. And I have some questions. Let me see how I organize it. Because in Brazil, you list many weak points. And despite the weak points, our ecosystem developed a lot. So we have many unicorns, we have venture capital, angel investors, incubators, accelerators. But we still have a lot of weak points that we have to solve. One that worries me a lot is talent and technical talent. We have a shortage of technical talent, and if we take the grade of Brazil in PISA, we are in the 60, in 2021, 60, we ranked in the 60th position among 76 countries. And we also have a lot of waste talent that didn't have the opportunities. So I see that long-term, we have to work with the government, with education, but this is long-term. For short and medium-term, to solve this shortage of talent, what can we do? I see some courses that we prepare people and try to fill this gap for people that didn't have the same opportunities, but also maybe networking with other countries. What kind of, do you have some ideas about it, some thoughts?
This is a huge problem. We have this in Israel, and it's a global problem now. You know, our young people, because of the lockdowns, because of the 2.5 years of COVID, the Americans just measured math scores among 8th grade students in the US, and there was a shocking decline. And I think this is true in Israel and in other countries as well, because learning online, learning by Zoom is not as effective as a classroom. My recommendation to Brazil in terms of education, focus on math. Get students to study math and teach math really well, teach it properly. Focus on that one subject because that's an obstacle. They need math to study engineering and science. And if they don't do well in math, they won't even be able to choose it. And there are countries that do math really well, but you need to do it your way. So that has to be a goal. We are going to increase our ranking in the PISA math scores, just the math scores, let's say, by going from 60 to 40. And we'll do that within 10 years. And that needs resources, really good teachers, many other things. So focus. The key of innovation is focus. Our goal is math. We're going to get more students to study math, and we're going to teach it really well and improve our math achievement relative to other countries. And we'll set clear quantitative goals using the PISA system and measure our success by that every single year or every 2 years to see how we're doing. Focus on math. That's crucial because math scores have declined. We got to get them back up and then increase them even more than that.
Good. So are we out of time? Can we do one more question to Shlomo? No? More? Thais, is it okay to do one more question? So Shlomo, this it's afternoon here. I know it's a little bit late in Israel, but one question for you. We are here together, the school, the university, and a few companies, and there's a few weak items that show in your research that we could be maybe addressing in the type of partnership that we want to build between companies and the university.
Right, so Professor Shlomo couldn't wait any longer because he's on a tight schedule. So he thanks you all very much for attending to this meeting, and he wish you all great success.